welcome back finally to episode number 8 of the Fatherly Love podcast. My name is Nikola and this is my brother Rajko. And today we're going to have kind of a open theme for today's podcast, and we're just going to talk about a few different stories and some parenting experiences.
Yeah, so we kind of reserve our Sundays for these, I would say, open-ended things where we would just be creative, a little, give us a little grace, a little bit of room, and just relax and don't think about topics, don't think about time frame. Uh, Usually, we will try and pull some guests here, but since we are very famous right now, we can't really put some room in agendas. So.
Our manager is very busy
Uh,
at the moment and he's trying to schedule
very
stuff
busy at the
out,
moment,
so
and
yeah.
we kind of couldn't get anything figured out because it's just like he's very busy. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been 2 weeks of us not necessarily recording, and quite a few things happened. Tell us a little bit of something about what you experienced earlier today, or was it yesterday?
So yeah, when I was at work, um, actually one guy that's working with me, um, good shout for Cody. Um, he looked at me, and because I just started working in that restaurant. He's like, "Do I know you from somewhere?" I'm like, absolutely impossible. But yeah, I have that generic face. Quite a few people told me that they might know me from somewhere, but they don't. And I'm like, I have that generic face, and he's like, I think I kind of know you. And that, like, the first time he mentioned that was a week and a half ago when I was first working there, my first day. And he's like, you know, you look familiar. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then yesterday he was like, do I really know you from somewhere? And I'm like, how? He said, do you have a podcast? I'm like, yeah, I do, but could like we have 22 views on our last episode. I mean, it's impossible that you can know about me. He's like, no, I know you. I was sitting down with my friend, and he's about to be a father, and he was looking for some stuff about fatherhood and stuff like that. And you guys popped out, and I remember your face. And so at that moment, that thing just kind of stuck with me, and I kind of felt good, and I felt that figured that there are people that would look for this content, and while we're already working on it, why just not continue? So I was just like, yeah, I have some free time. Let me get a hold of Nicola, and let's
Here we
continue
are.
this interesting journey.
Yeah, originally we had this, you know how things go. You make a plan, you get a schedule together, it works, and then life happens. There's just so many things that have been going on. Raiko has been working a lot. I've been kind of scaling back on work, but I've been a lot more involved with my family, and it's been an interesting shift for me, especially these last couple of weeks, where now that my wife is pregnant, it is much more important to be around and to help out and to be present for these little moments, because pregnancies, as you all know, they're they're a lot. They're a lot on a woman emotionally, physically, and it's been really cool. Just bonding with my wife through these little moments, feeling my son kick me in the face when I'm trying to listen to him through my wife's belly, and it's just been so many different experiences that have been going on in these last couple of weeks that
It's
have been
gonna
very
be more
precious.
kicking as he grows up, just so you know.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be a kickboxer. I swear. So we've been doing this pretty much every night, where she lays down, she's ready to like settle down for the night, and I lay with her, and usually after we realize that after she eats, he's going to wake up, and he's almost like excited about food every time she eats. he's like, "Oh shit, we got food." He's like moving around, bouncing, and so we've been trying to feel him and see if he pushes and kicks and feels us and hears us. And this the like last week, I like to put my ear on her belly because I can hear the fluid moving around, and I just think it's interesting. And all of a sudden, it was like nothing for like 5 seconds. It was like a horror movie, and then a jump scare. Do. So he just literally slammed me in the ear, and it was a kick. It wasn't one of those like cute, like he pushed off the side of the belly, to move to a different position. He was like, "Get the fuck out of here, dude." He hates ultrasounds. He hates being disturbed in his little space. Does not like taking pictures. The my wife spends at least like 20 more minutes than she should with the ultrasound tech because he just will not stop moving when there's a tech around when she's like trying to feel from him. So it's been very interesting, and now the new chapter is beginning soon. So excited for that.
And from your perspective and my perspective, we have two totally different uh, viewpoints of pregnancy, of how things are working out, and just as you said, you're getting more involved with your family. I'm getting less involved, and it's just so interesting thing to see, where kind of this sacrifice that I'm making. A lot of people are mentioning that, do you miss your son? You're missing very nice moments with him. We want you to be here with him. He's growing up. He's starting to, finally, like, for example, he used two different words for the first time. He said, no, mama. So he meant that, like, he didn't see it
Yeah,
on, like,
he consciously
randomly. He
chose
meant, like,
those.
she
Yeah,
was she was yeah, she was doing something. He was like, no, mama. And it's just like he's moving so fast and he's growing up so fast, and I'm missing all these moments. We're talking twice a day. Every time I wake up, that's their time for bed. When I'm going to bed, they're waking up. So uh we're talking, and fortunately we're living in this high-tech society where we can see each other. But yeah, today I was with Robert, and his son was I finally met his son, and he was with us, and that's the moment when I actually figured out that I really miss my son. So it's strange, it's hard, but it's on the other hand, if you know what is your goal, that's kind of driving me through it.
yeah. Parenthood. I mean, in general, it's all about sacrifices. But it's always, and it should always be for something greater, for something better in the long run. And there's we. I feel like I never realized how much our parents sacrificed throughout our childhood because you can't comprehend it as a little individual. Like you understand certain things, but you don't really get a full scope of things until you're an adult. Um, so,
Till
so
you get a kid, a
yeah,
lot of things made much more sense when I got a kid. So
yeah.
kind of, but also I was just watching the other day one lady. She was also featuring in one podcast, and actually it was a TV show, and they were talking about marriage and stuff, which that thing really stuck with me. So it was she was saying that marriage is not 50-50.
Oh my
That
god.
that's a bullshit, and
I
and
just watched
everything.
that video a couple of days ago.
With the blonde lady sitting down, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it really is something that I'm actually living by, and I really do agree on. And she was saying essentially that it cannot be 50-50. We're individuals. We are getting invested in that relationship. Um, Sometimes more, sometimes less, which is normal. We're people. We have our good days and bad days, and sometimes when she says when my husband comes back from work and he feels exhausted, he says, "Listen, honey, I just have like 25, 30% in me." And then she says, "Yeah, that's fine." And she steps up, covers that 70%. She gives 70%, and that is the whole point. You have to be there for your partner when he's feeling low. and you gotta step up. So it's not 50-50. It's sometimes 70-30. Sometimes it's 60-40. Sometimes it's 90-10. Sometimes, you just have to be there and support your partner, and that's how it works, right? But what happens when both of you are 25? That's only 50, right? So they have a rule where when they come back home and they're like, listen, honey, I'm 15. She says, I'm also 15. All right, we gotta sit down, talk about it, and figure the thing how to work on this situation without hurting each other. And that actually was the most like mind-blowing thing for me, that you really have to implement that um, habit of just working it out together without hurting each other, right? It's easy to be in a bad mood and say, oh, I was in a bad mood and I'm sorry, but that's easy stuff. You gotta
You got
actually
to put
step
your
up
ego aside.
your game. Exactly, you gotta kick up your game a bit, and first resolve your inner issues and then talk out with your partner and then figure out how you want to figure things out.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I don't know if you sent it to me or Brenna sent it to me or I just saw it on TikTok. It doesn't really matter, but it's such an interesting approach because I also thought about, if you're feeling low and I'm feeling low, like how are we going to figure this out? There is the approach of, hey, let's see how we can tackle this situation without hurting each other. But what in some, I'm not saying all the time, but in some cases for me and Brenna, what works is we will literally say like, I need some time for myself. And it can be something as simple as I want to go to the room and watch a TV show for an hour and just kind of clear my head, and you can go and do whatever you want to do for an hour. That is, it may seem selfish at the moment, but it is very healthy for you to not jump the gun and jump into a discussion that maybe like you think is going to be productive, but it might backfire. It might make you resent each other over little things that really shouldn't matter that much. But yeah, talking stuff out and communication is definitely one big part. And
It's the most
that,
important thing.
yeah, hands down. And it should be, it's funny that you mentioned that it's not a 50-50 or whatever. And I always remember our moms telling us, and I don't know if she told you this, but I distinctly remember how she told me like I was probably 8 or 9, and I don't know if I had a girlfriend at the time or something, but we were talking about girls, right? And she told me, uh, in life, you're gonna find not a girlfriend, not a wife, not a spouse. You want to find a companion. You want to find somebody who's going to go in line with you. Now, they might not keep the same tempo. Like that's the whole thing. Like you might be at 70%, they might be at 30%, but it will eventually even out. They're going to be ahead of you sometimes too. And that's just a part of marriage that has to work if you want to have children, because that's why we're talking about all of this, is because children get affected by this directly.
Another interesting thing that it's probably very controversial, and it's getting up a lot of discussion, but definitely we're living in how do you say that on English? Patriarchal society, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, where the general idea is that men are being in charge of putting bread on the table more than women. And in that case, we were talking like about a lot of things, and that pulls out a lot of history, a lot of DNA, a lot of evolution, a lot of things that are being and how they were done back in the days. So, and if you take a look at it and think about it for a minute without getting so feisty and all this woman rights and stuff like that, you just have to be kind of, I would say, real, right? Um, we're different biologically, and that's that's it. We cannot be the same. It never will be. And if you take a look back, what was happening with the first gatherers and first Cro-Magnons and whatever, the first society of people, is we were growing up, yes, men were the ones who were doing the hunting part, the collecting food part, and things like that. And women were more in charge of raising uh, kids and raising ears because you wanted to eventually expand your um, family, right? And that
Yeah,
is in core of every species in the world, expanding and reproduction, right? So anywhere, like if you take a look, it's always been like that. And unfortunately, we're now getting in a society, for as I'm seeing it, in society of conformity, where we don't have to fight for food, we don't have to fight for shelter, we don't have to think about what's weather gonna be tomorrow. We are all good, right? You don't have to over worry about these things. And that's when we have time for thinking and getting new ideas, improving technology, science, and stuff, changing our society and our sociological things. But essentially, that happened in last, you can say,
100 years.
I don't know, 2000,
Yeah, they can like
200 years. But no, I mean, like this huge gap, yes, in past 100 years. And we're talking about humans uh, as we are for how long?
yeah. I mean, you can
You
talk
know,
maybe like maybe 300 years at most. But I would say from the
so
industrial revolution is when things started to change. Things definitely started shifting.
So yeah, but we're talking about us as, um, at the level that we are on at for 130 millions of years back. You know, like you are just 130,000 years back, and you just want to change and make a change in 100 of years, right?
Yeah,
You're not
that's
like functioning like that. Our brains are, having three parts that developed over time, and then you have that amygdala part, which is actually essentially fight or flight or flight. And at the end, the fourth prefrontal cortex is a part that's, in charge of thinking and making the rational decisions and just being in control. And that is the part of the brain that is developing in last, I don't know, couple of thousands of years, a couple of hundreds of years. And it's just, for me, I think that is a crucial part of having that distinction between uh, men and women. And yes, I agree, we all have to be treated right because we should have same rights, that's for sure, but we cannot be the same, essentially. If you have a kid and a dad on a desert island, what are the odds of that, like not kid, but baby, little small baby, like just a newborn? What are the odds of that newborn baby surviving without mom? Very slim, right?
yeah,
That baby needs mom's milk to survive. So in the first period of time, mom is just someone who's irreplaceable.
yeah.
And, that's a very interesting topic that for me just brings a lot of turmoil, a lot of
It sparks a
very
debate that people are
divided
emotional
opinions.
about.
Yeah, but they should not be. We should be able to talk about these things and just rationally come to conclusions and just, accept nature as it is, not trying to change nature because you can't change nature, right?
I agree. I agree. There's definitely. I mean, but there's also a push with especially in the U.S. and Canada. I'm assuming is well, Canada's different because they have healthcare, but there's the absurd thing of pretty much if you're not in the big corpo world, you don't really get maternity leave. Like that is crazy to me. Um, in Europe,
Yes, and
it's like
that's
a
what I'm saying.
very normal thing that you get like 6 months
Yeah.
with the baby. Now we have to like we right now me and my wife we have to plan out and be like, hey, she's gonna be out of work for at least the first 3 months, right? Not because she I mean, obviously she wants to spend time with the baby, but also because that is essential. That time is very crucial for the baby to develop. And that is okay. That's not, it shouldn't be this stigma of, hey, I want to have my career and I'm not gonna let go of it for anything, you know. And a lot of these, there's these more and more of these families that women are so focused on their careers that they lose that first period of time with the baby, which I think it's not good that it's moving more and more towards these. I think they call it like atomic or nuclear families, where it's one kid. They want to leave it with the nanny, and that's the whole thing, right? Like that child is something that is in their life as a milestone. It's something that's there for them to be uh, somebody, an heir, like somebody who's gonna continue their legacy, and that's why they do it. And I think it's a completely wrong reason to have children. But then again, on the other side, we don't know these individuals. I didn't really talk a lot with people that chose these paths. I just observe and see that it's moving in that direction. But also, it's not necessarily a bad thing for those people to do that, because if they choose to have a kid for whatever reasons they want, or they choose not to have a child, that's totally fine. That's on them. But if you do want to have a child, those first couple of months with a baby, extremely important. And I think also, if the father can be there for the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months without working, in the ideal world, that would be perfect. That would be the best thing for the baby, you know. But it is very people get very emotional about the topic because they feel like somebody's trying to tell these people, like, hey, you shouldn't focus on your career, or you shouldn't focus on yourself, like you should be taking care of this baby. But in reality, it's a crucial part of their development. And then a fun fact that I talked to Brenna about is, do you know why moms usually hold their babies on their left hip? Doesn't matter if they're left-handed or right-handed. So because of the way that you have the two spheres of the brain, naturally, the baby wants to be closer to the heart. The mother will instinct. I don't know how to say it. The instinct
Instinctively.
is to hold them in the left part of their body, so they're closer to the heart. And then also, when the babies look at you with their left eye, apparently it's better for making a connection with the mother. It activates that part of the brain that is in charge of connections, empathy, and generally it's better for the baby. So it's just like a
Yeah.
little thing that I thought it was interesting. That I don't know if there's scientific reasoning behind
Yeah.
it. I'm assuming there is, but it's just interesting that that's the case.
Well, it's so there are a lot of things that are we just taking for granted, especially regarding these, I would say, old stories and stuff like that. But all of that is just making sense when, things are being like that for hundreds of thousands of years. And, I mean, just I'm always referring back to nature. If you take a look at how nature works and how animals in animal kingdom are behaving and stuff like that, I mean, you will see how things are being done, and it's just like that for millions of years for some species. And why change things that are working good? But
But that's what makes us human too. On the other hand, right?
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Being
So we're
opinionated
not
about certain
worrying now.
things.
We're not worrying about, finding food and surviving anymore.
Yeah,
We're worrying about, oh, can I buy myself a yacht? Can I go to, I don't know, spend my vacation in Egypt?
yeah,
Do I want to buy new, I don't know, whatever,
yeah,
right? And you're
yeah.
just finding way to amuse yourself pretty much. And then, you have time to think, and then you make new ideas and just I don't know. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Of course, that's what makes us human. That's why we're on the top of a food chain because we have an ability
Outsmarted
to communicate
everything.
on that high level, and we're self-conscious, and we can, think about these things. But on the other hand, that pulls out these other stuff. And there's a very, very famous doctor. here in Serbia that our mom is always sending me videos of, and
It's her
I
celebrity
I'm the one,
crush.
my celebrity crush, yeah. My celebrity male crush, because I'm just trying to find.
While he looks for that, I want to mention something that you guys
Terrible
might
with
like.
names.
Um,
I'm terrible with names, but let me just find it.
yeah, take a look at that. But I wanted to mention a show that you guys might like. It's on Netflix currently, and I believe it's called Chimpanzee Empire. It's a 4 episode series that follows a small group of chimpanzees and their social structure. So they're and it is mind blowing, and we actually watched it with our son. Uh, he was super immersed. He's not even 8 yet, but he was like, "Oh, look how this chimpanzee's reacting to this event, and look how this one is reacting to that event, and look how the baby is acting." And you see so many similarities, and the evolution is just crazy uh, to see from that to us humans, and on the fact of there are so many things we take for granted from nature in general. uh, there's a interesting phrase that I heard that says magic is just science that we don't understand yet. And it's a very cool way to approach everything that you don't understand, right? Like, why are mothers holding their babies on their left hip? There is something that triggers in mothers that, hey, I feel like the baby should be here. I don't know why, but it should be here. It's like magic, right? But
And
there is a
and
scientific reason, and for the longest time, we probably didn't know about it. So try to think that way. It will open up a lot of conversations in your own head that you can have with yourself when you're on the toilet and you forget your phone, or you're going for a walk. Um, Very interesting things and very interesting topics that I've been thinking about lately. But
yeah, I
yeah,
believe there is something going on, and it's just like some things that we cannot explain. They're just there for a reason, and some things that just really happen for a reason, and we can somehow impact them and affect them. But on the other hand, sometimes we just can't. So
yep.
I'm still having troubles trying to
But
find this.
it's okay. It's on
But I
Viber in
think
our
it's
conversation. Um, but another thing that I actually wanted to mention is I blipped now when Raiko said something. What was I going to say? I was going to mention something about nature and the way that things are.
so. His name is Ranko Rajkovic. Unfortunately, he is not. He's not like famous, right? And he's speaking mostly on these clips in Serbian. Essentially, he was the one who formed the Mensa Society back in Serbia. So he formed the Mensa branch in Serbia. He was one of the, I would say, figures that wanted to get Mensa as a society in Serbia. And he formed an NTC learning method for kids here in Serbia also, and he's very smart. He talks about a lot of things that we are unfortunately neglecting and not using anymore as uh, like past doctrines that we think science overwhelmed, and we're living in a society that's overprotective to our children. And one very interesting thing for me so was uh, like what is the connection between bad posture and the how do you call the bread crust, right? So
Wait.
we
Bad posture.
bad posture and bread crust.
Okay.
So essentially, the metaphor is for bread crust is essentially the hard, solid foods, because people nowadays are often at times giving babies just blended foods. Just it's easier for them, it's faster, they like it, they don't want to chew, blah blah blah, whatever the reason is. And they were conducting a one study, and they were looking into kids that are not eating bread crust as a hard part. They would just eat the middle part, which is soft, and so in that way, their jaws are not being developed enough, and so their jaws are just going and being pulled towards forward. They're not being like set in place because they're not strong enough. And so if that if the jaw is just moved forward for 1 millimeter, the connectors between neck, like the the uh, the down jaw, the bottom jaw is the strongest bone in the body, and it needs a lot of force and a lot of development, right? And
Resistance.
so kids that are not eating crust, they're not having enough of the resistance. It's not developing. It's pulling forward, and then by pulling forward, the neck starts to pull forward a little bit, and you know your whole body essentially goes and leans back, and you start leaning forward and having bad posture. And that was crazy for me because it really does make sense. And I was always against that. Why would you make your kid life overprotective and easy? I mean, I'm not saying that they should go in, I don't know, go outside and dig canals or whatever. But I'm just saying, like, they have to have a little bit of challenge, and don't resolve your kids' all challenges. When they come to you with a question and they have a problem, don't give them a solution. Give them suggestions and advice a couple of times, and let them figure out by themselves. And then if they really can't, help them, of course, but
Give them a
just
step-by-step
don't
guide.
go jump in. Yeah, don't just jump in there with the solution, because you're not essentially helping your kid. You're just making him harder um, to get and figure things out by himself.
Yeah, and I think we had a lot of that in our childhood. Just learning things by ourselves, and that's what developed our critical thinking. I I'm not saying we're geniuses, but I feel like my brother and I, we have a pretty good understanding of most situations that life throws at us, one way or another. But to connect to that story, that there's so many important things to do for your baby and to do for your little child, is I was watching a interesting video and that talks about mouth breathers, and I caught myself telling my stepson Constantine, I was like, breathe through your nose, and he has a very sometimes, especially during the fall and spring, because of allergies, it's very hard for him to breathe through his nose. Uh, but so I remind him, and he goes through it, and so for the most part, he's a nose breather, right? But I was watching this video, and this baby was, I want to say, like 3 months old. What happens with babies, their noses get clogged up all the time. It is very normal. You'll see yourself clearing their nose plenty of times. But what I found interesting is this doctor, a pediatrician, he was saying, close your baby's mouth, like literally forcefully close their mouth, and they will naturally start breathing through their nose. Now, what happens with mouth breathers is their jaw will actually sink, so their chin will go back. They will have bad posture. They will have a very bad balance of their face. Their top jaw is actually gonna go forward. Their chin's gonna go back. Um, there's respiratory issues. Their immune systems are not as good. There's a plethora of things and benefits to breathing properly, and we hated it as kids. Like Raiko had terrible. I don't know if it's allergies but he always had nostrils that are stuffed, and it was just a normal thing. I never paid attention to it when we were kids. I had my nose stuffy, didn't really pay much attention to it. It was always like one nostril, and then I would like figure it out. But Raiko would always blow his nose, always stuffy nose, and but we were, and our father would bug us and say, like, breathe through your nose, breathe through your nose, breathe through your nose. We're like, just leave us alone, like, holy. But there's something about it that now I'm realizing, I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense.
And now as I'm growing older, I'm just figuring out more and more that he was right for 95%. So before I was thinking, okay, he's right for most things, but now I think he's right for 95% of things he was saying. But as you mentioned before, um, yes, that developed a lot of critical thinking, that we had that independent kind of approach, and they were working a lot, and a lot of times we were left to get
To
all
our own
out and figure
devices.
it out by ourselves. But unfortunately, I think that I don't feel like have been supported enough, and that is a part of the parenting that I've seen that I can improve on, and just don't transfer that toward my kids,
Well, what
because
what's when you say you didn't feel supported, you mean like emotionally, like you were not backed up?
yeah, I don't think I was backed up enough. I don't think that I was heard enough. I don't know for you, but I'm definitely 100% sure that it was not part of me, because anything I wanted, it was, I had been kind of, you know, leaned against, right? When I was a
Because
kid,
they
I
thought
wanted to
they knew
play
better.
football. They exactly, and,
Yeah.
and they would put me on basketball. They didn't want to let me go there. It's freezing. I want to protect you. Blah blah blah. Okay, I understand. N- none of the none of two of them. Like, I remember just one time my mom coming to watch the game for basketball, even though like I wanted, and I asked them like come, but they didn't have time. Uh, and then
That's funny because I distinctly remember even now, every like once a month, I remember the moment when I saw mom, because we went to the same basketball club basically, Rajko and and I remember this moment where I saw my mom. She left work early and she came to see me, and it was like the best day ever. And I never, when I was growing up, I never paid much attention to it. Like, I was happy in that moment. I was like, okay, this is it, right? But then more and more, and literally like once a month, I remember that moment. And just to connect to your story, uh, Constantine went to basketball camp, right? And he's not showing great progress in basketball, but he loves it. So why would I tell my child like, "Oh, don't go, you don't, it's not for you, whatever." Stick it out. It might get better, you might get bored of it, but that's okay. But at least
yeah,
then I know as a
exactly. But
parent that I
as
gave them
long
the,
as
the
you're enjoying it,
opportunity.
it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. But then also, on as a parent, you don't have to feel the guilt, and you can be okay with yourself saying, "Hey, I let him have this, right? I was there for him." Because every time he had basketball camp, Brenna and I made it a point to go and be there the whole time. And every time he would be playing and he looks up and we're both there and he smiles, and it makes your day. It is very small things that we learned from our parents, that obviously it's not good for us, but it will make us better parents, is how not to do certain things. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead. You as you were saying.
No, no, it's fine. It's this is a conversation, right? And you have things that come up to your mind, and I just remember once, and then when I grew a little bit older, probably I kind of built up a resentment towards it. So even when they wanted to, I didn't want to see them, because I didn't feel comfortable, because they
Well, you
were
were,
not
yeah,
coming when I was younger, and
yes.
it's just like it built it up that way. And I'm not saying that I was right. I was a kid, but it's just like it
But
was
yeah,
a it
you
was a
shouldn't be the
tough
bigger
spot.
person in that. Yeah, and you shouldn't be the bigger person in that situation. But you probably subconsciously developed this resentment that you almost made a negative connection. If they were at the match, it would almost be like a counter effect because they haven't been attending these things for so long. You know.
And so that is the big thing. And also, when I wanted to go to, so those are two very important things for me in my life, is that when I wanted to play football, they didn't want to let me. And I wanted to go to like high school, um for the veterinarian, and they kind of drifted me away from it, saying, you will be waking up at 5 going with bus to school. Then they, kind of connected me with my older siblings that were going to different schools so they can, kind of tell me and drift me. Now I'm figuring it out. Like, they were doing that. So I get a uh, different picture, and they succeeded in it. But now when I look back at it, I think I would be much happier because I would be doing what I love. I mean, I really wanted to be a veterinarian and I love animals, and I would be very happy to help them and everything. But it is what it is. But now I know. And another thing is that you can't support your kid with every little dream that they have, right? Because
No, for
they have a
sure.
lot of
And I
dreams.
think that's where I
But
got lucky in comparison to you, because I remember having this conversation where, they gave us this list in Serbia. You fill out a list of wishes basically, and depending on how you do on your final test for basically elementary and middle school, which is the 8 years before high school, you get a list, and they, write down the schools you would like to attend. So I wanted to be a chef. So my first wish was to be a chef or the culinary school, and then the second wish was to be an IT engineer. And my mom looked at it and she's like, "Is this really what you want?" I said, "Yes, I do, and I don't care what you say." Like, I remember that moment. And I saw her need, almost like she was ready to explode, to tell me like, why don't you go to this school or that school. But I think she took a step back because she reflected on the situation that she had with my older brother, and she was like, fine, and she kind of let me have it. And now I know that, hey, I had my thing as a chef, and maybe my mom was right. So two completely different
yeah,
experiences. Like, I love cooking. I cook at home like at least twice a day. I love that I have that skill. I love that I can fix any type of dish up. But at the end of the day, I realized that I don't want to be a chef for the rest of my days, and that's okay.
yeah. And you can never be 100% certain. I mean, now I'm saying I've really wanted to be a veterinarian or whatever. Who knows? Maybe I would change my mind. Maybe I would not enjoy
Yeah,
it. Maybe it would not be for me, right?
yeah,
But it always stays that little thing in your head.
for sure.
What
And
if,
that, yeah,
right?
and that's the famous phrase that we told you guys about in probably the first or second episode of this podcast, is that the number one hated sentence for me and my brother as kids is, both our mom and our dad would say, when you grow older or when you grow up, it will reveal
You'll
itself to
see.
you, or you'll
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
right? And it's such a frustrating thing as a kid, because like, oh, but I feel like I can
You,
understand it now, but you
uh,
can't. You can't, and you have to experience it
yeah.
by yourself.
You can't
And
because you 100% you can't. There's no way you can because you you were never a parent
yep,
before,
yep,
and it's so tough. And and at the end, they were doing all things in a spite of the best thing for us. They wanted the best for us, so it's just yeah, it's just like that. It's I think that there was no bad intentions at all with any of those, except some crazy moments from our dad, where I think his ego was taking over. But you know,
more about that in the next episode of Dragon Ball Z.
yes, oh,
But yeah, it's
made me
very
go,
important.
made me visit my therapist, but it's fine.
And
Revealed that I I just have to take my clothes out of dryer.
okay, and I'll entertain you guys
I'll
for
be
the
back.
moment. So definitely one thing that we learned from our childhood is to observe, and you wouldn't be listened to a lot of the times, but that's okay, because you learn to form your own opinions. You learn how to talk yourself through a situation that might be frustrating, that might be sad, might be annoying, whatever it is. But I definitely think it made us better parents today, and it made us reflect on things more, which I don't think, in the craziness of everything, them trying to raise two kids, was not to say it wasn't possible. It was definitely possible, but they did not have those skills because it was a different. It's a different generation. They were handling problems differently. They were going through life differently, and we do have one big thing that we have now that our parents didn't have is the internet. And as silly as it sounds, you can find almost 90% of things. You can find an unbiased answer on whatever topic or debate or anything you were looking at. So I definitely think that as many good things as we you know got from our childhood, there were many bad things that we turned into good things. And I think that's a very important thing that I see myself as a parent doing now is I will turn a moment that would probably for the generation before us be a negative outcome. You turn it into something that is a teaching moment, something that is a bonding moment, and overall a better experience for you and your child.
Well, I don't know what were you talking about, but the last thing I've heard, I always like to say never a failure, always a lesson. And definitely, like, that is the way of how I put things into perspective. And this way of thinking actually keeps me afloat here. Um, I'm working a lot. At one point, I had three jobs here. I still kind of have three jobs, but I'm actively involved in, engaged in two. One is just, from time to time, and it just like I think it would be impossible with a family here. But on the other hand, with my wife here, it's just gonna be very hard because we'll both have to work because it's much different and much harder here. And I'm right now as a like she's pregnant. She she's due in September, and she's alone there with a small kid, 1 year and 5 months, and pregnant. And he is crazy now. He is running everywhere. He's starting to climb things, jumping. He's really like a tough little guy to
Dennis the
handle.
Menace.
Uh, yeah, he's very funny, very joyful, but he needs a lot of attention, and he wants to do things, and he does not care if you are around or not. Like she would just stand in downtown, they're walking, and he would just not even pay attention where she is. He would just go, right? And you have to go. Like usually kids would
You're
be
on
like,
his
you
schedule.
just exactly. Usually kids would be like, they want their parents close and they always check on them or whatever. No, no, we'll keep. He's going, and so it's so hard on her. But now, as I'm the only one who's actually providing, she's also working besides all of that. So she's amazing. But I'm trying here is like I have a lot of free time. What would I do? Like I would just work and that's it. And that puts a lot of pressure on you. And I don't have time to, just kind of sit down and like think about how do I want to accomplish things. And it just keeps me afloat thinking, okay, this is just the part
Temporary
of
thing.
things working out. And I have a lot of bad days at work, things when they're not right. I can't really um kind of complain or share my stress with someone because I don't have anyone here. I talk with my family over phone, but it's not the same as coming home with kids and wife waiting for you. So it is
The
very
hug at the
tough.
end of the day.
And yeah, and so I hug my pillow in my bed and I try to get as much sleep as I can. Quality sleep is very important. Of course, I'm not succeeding. Come on, who's ever succeeding in having enough sleep in their
Why
30s? But
have sleep when
you
have
know,
more time video game?
Exactly. Why should I sleep with there's so many funny videos on Instagram, right? Let me just unwind a little bit. I just need that time for myself.
3 hours later.
And then 3 hours later.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely like when they're that little, it is more of less think, just do, and you're on their schedule, and that's it. And you gotta, uh, it's gonna be fun.
You
So
gotta accept that. You just live with it and that's it. Just try and catch up with him. And yeah, one thing that we all forgot, I forgot because it's not that big of a thing back home, but I don't know how you forgot about it. Happy Father's Day, all the fathers that are listening to us
whoa,
and all the families. It's such a convenient thing that we're making an episode actually on Father's Day. It was not planned. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, we just figured out it's Father's Day. So,
yep.
yeah, I think we'll just have to change the intro for this one.
Oh, maybe we should. Um, hmm.
All right.
Maybe
So
we
a
should.
good talk here.
No, but um, do this is a seamless transition. Listen, guys, um, when does a joke become a dad joke?
All right. When?
When it becomes apparent. Anyway, we forgot about that one too.
We did. We did. But we're keeping it afloat. Like we always get to it by like nearing the end.
Yeah, it's gonna be there, guys. But spend time with your children. Uh, give them the benefit of the doubt. They are little humans. Approach situations. Just try to approach situations differently. Uh, Try to stop yourself for 2 seconds. 2 seconds. I jump the gun all the time, but when I step back,
Yeah.
the outcome is much better. Um, yeah, try to understand your feelings. Try to understand your children. Very important. Talk to your children. Don't just assume. Um, and yeah, make babies,
Well,
guys.
that's a big thing that we're talking about, and we're repeating that over and over again because we really think that that is a correct way, and that is something that you really guys and have to pay attention on. That is your children. Just listen to them, and it's just like when you see your kid being distressed. Yes, he is distressed. Yes, he's a little brat, but maybe he's trying to communicate something with you. So, just try and listen.
Yep. Take time with them. It will be worth it down the road. You
And
need
always
somebody.
always find time for them, just be there for your kids. I mean, the easiest thing is just, kind of having a nanny, or I know I'm working and stuff like that. I have so many things to do, but just kind of try and have your moments together with them. Get them out and explore, let them be independent. Of course, be cautious, but just don't be overprotective, I would say. And you'll see your kids just growing up and being themselves, which they should be. They should not be a copy of some other kid
Pro
from
tip.
kindergarten, or this good kid, good grades in school or whatever. They have to be themselves, right?
Yeah, and pro tip, you have to follow these directions because you need somebody to take care of you when you're in the nursing home. Okay, that's it.
Just train them to make a lot of money so you don't have to work.
But
ASAP.
but slowly nudge them in the direction of, hey, you have to take care of your
It's
parents.
don't
You
be
know,
like obvious about it, right?
yeah, but just slowly like
They
nudge them
can
in that
start
direction.
working at 13. They're good.
They're fine. Just open a restaurant, take a tax credit, invest all of their money into a fund, um, take that fund to pay for their college. Then they start making $1 million a year. Then you don't have to work a day in your life. Basic strategy.
Easy.
Well, we hope you guys enjoyed. Very scattered episode, but we think that we needed this conversation. We needed to talk to you guys about things that were happening to us, to talk to you guys a little bit about our childhood and just the lessons we learned along the way. I think it's beneficial.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Again, we are a couple of brothers that are just functioning on a pretty
Wait,
similar
wait, wait, wait,
basis, and
wait.
that's
We have another brother? Why didn't you tell me?
couple couple
Yeah,
of brothers.
that means more than two. What? We have another brother?
Couple is two.
I don't think it is. A couple of
My English
brothers.
is not the best.
Sorry.
Very nice, I like. So we are two brothers. Okay. One thumb, two thumb.
A couple thumb.
Couple thumbs. Yeah. Well, I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is, uh, we'd like to communicate. We like to hear back from you guys, and we're hoping to have for next week someone joining us here. And by the next Sunday, I hope we'll have a couple more. Did I use it good now? Episodes.
Yeah, there you
Oh
go. There
yeah.
you go.
Oh, learning fast.
Vocabulary with
Uh,
Nikola.
yeah. Vocabulary sessions with Nicole.
There we go. It's gonna be a segment for
And
you guys.
yeah, so we're gonna go back to our kind of five topics and share some new news and interesting things that are happening around the world with you. And of course, we're waiting for your feedback, hear back from you, and just talk about it.
That's fatherlylovepodcast@gmail.com. If you want to send us your questions, your opinions, your studies that you saw somewhere on the internet and you want us to check out, we're interested in all that. So feel free to reach out. We will definitely take a look and feature it in the next episode. But until then, don't forget to like and subscribe. Very important. You can click the little bell if you're watching this on YouTube to get notifications when this pops up. If you are listening on whichever platform you're listening, make sure you give us a follow so you can follow new episodes. And we will see you very, very soon. Until the next time, have
All
a
right.
wonderful night. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.